What's up YouTube, Kevin Reese here. Today I'm going to be walking y'all through how to do a brake job, full brake job, rotors and pads. This is a 2001 Ford F-150. I know I had some people in the comment sections on one of my videos saying, when are you going to bring the old Ford out again? Well, here you go. So rotors, pads, this is an all-wheel disc brake, so that's why we won't have a drum demonstration on this truck. So rotors, pads, I'm going to walk y'all through how to do it all. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first thing you got to do is get the wheels and tires off. So for that, what I'm using is the air wrench today. Your lug nuts on this truck should be a 13/16. So that's what I have here. So go ahead and take these off. And if you don't have a big shop with a lift, you're probably doing this like me. So I've got a floor jack under here with the block on it, and I'm just jacking the rear end up just to get both these tires up in the air. And go ahead and chock both the front wheels. You can use chocks or bricks or some wood or something. You just don't want it to roll when you jack it up. Now that we have the wheel off, we can go ahead and start taking a look here at our brake caliper. The next step is go ahead and just soak all the bolts down with some penetrating lubricant. Next, you can take a 10mm wrench or socket. I find a wrench is good because you're going to need a hammer. So take that and a hammer and start up here on your slide bolts. And go ahead and loosen these up. You got one here at the top. It's right on the back side of this caliper, so that one's loose. Then you got one right here. And I prefer really a wrench to do this because at least to break them free, because I don't like to hit my ratchet and socket with the hammer. So go ahead and take these off now. Alright, so once you've got your slide bolt side, you can see these right here, and they're really dry. I'm definitely gonna have to grease them up, but the boots look like they're in good shape. So next thing you want to do, once you get your bolts out or your calipers, take you a flathead screwdriver. You come in here and try to pry in between where the caliper is pushing out against the pad. So that'll give you a little bit of clearance and kind of help. It'll make it come off a little easier. And then go ahead with a hammer. Kind of tap around, free it up. This has been on here for a while. And go ahead with your screwdriver down in here, and it should pop right off. Be careful of your little mounting hardware right here. You can see this goes on this bracket. So our new pads may have the same setup. So keep up with parts like this. And now once your caliper's out of the way, what you can go ahead and do, you don't ever want to let it hang on the brake line. And the reason for that is a lot of people don't realize, but when you let it hang on the brake line, the inside can bend, and when that brake line bends, then you have the problems where your brakes hang up. You hit the brakes, the fluid comes in, but the fluid can't come back. So then you have your brakes hanging up. That's one of the reasons you never do that. Alright, so with the bungee cord, you can see right here I've got it under your caliper. You got your caliper port supported and hanging. So if you look right here, this is your outside pad. And what I've done here is just take a hammer and kind of tap this up out of the way. It's got, if you look at the back of it, it's got these clips and these holes, so it just kind of sits in like that, and that's how it's held in place. This one, it's got this funky little clip on the back side, which actually sits inside your piston right here. So now that we have all that off out the way, what we're going to go ahead and do is clean this up with some brake cleaner, and I'm going to show y'all how to get this piston back inside this caliper, and we'll put our new pads in place. And for our brake rotor, you can just simply grab the rotor here. This whole piece is the rotor, and just take it off of there. So now we've got our rotor off. So now we can go ahead now and put our new one on. So this is our new rotor right here. It's a direct replacement. So what you want to do with this, a lot of times they're shipped like real oily just to protect the metal. This came in a box with wrapped in plastic. There's not really any oil on it, but it's always a good idea to just shoot a little brake cleaner on this and just kind of wipe both sides of this off. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it on. Should be a direct replacement, so bolts right up like that. Just slips on there, and that's your new rotor. You can, to get that to hold up there in place when you're putting your new stuff on, you go ahead and run one of these nuts down here against it, just like that, and that'll just hold it in place, so whenever you go to put your new one on, you don't run into any issues. If anyone's interested, I'm taking these old rotors, and they're still in good shape. These are big old thick rotors that Ford used. They got a lot of meat left on them. Nothing wrong with them at all. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to have them professionally turned, and I will put them back in these boxes. And if you're interested, just let me know in the comment, or either y'all can email me. My email's on my YouTube channel. It'll be in the description also. Just email me, and we'll work out PayPal arrangement or shipping if you're interested in these rotors. But I'm going to have them turned, and I will be selling them. So this next step is you kind of like your messiest step. So what we have is well, you've got your brake caliper here. So you want to inspect the boots right here, these rubber boots. These are your push pins, where your push pins go in. They both look pretty clean. I don't see anything broken, but like I said, I am going to grease these things up with some caliper grease. Just what you're going to need right here. This is CRC brake caliper grease. So we're just going to take you an old rag here and hit this with some brake clean. Try to clean this up just a little bit. And then your old wire brush, like this one right here, kind of help clean up these little groove areas down in here. Wipe it off a little bit. Try not to get any of that brake cleaner on your rubber boots. It's not good for the rubber. You just want to hit the metal surfaces with it. Then on the outside, you've got a boot right here. But on your outside of your piston, you want to just kind of clean that, because what happens right around on the outside of it, when you press, when we push this caliper back in, like I'll show you in a second, you don't want to have a bunch of trash on the outside of that piston, because it actually, if it pushes in past that boot, that's how you get some contamination in your brake fluid inside your caliper. Alright, and this is a tool that's going to make your life a lot easier. This is a disc brake caliper tool set. Y'all can see that. There's your number and everything on it. So flip that bad boy open. You can see you've got these parts in here that are going to make it so much easier than trying to fumble around with a C-clamp and get it to fit on there. So we're going to use this. I'm going to show you how it works. I've got this set up about as best I can. Y'all forgive me for the angle. It's a one-man operation out here. Shade tree mechanic. Alright, so what you want to do with this, it comes run all the way down here. So, like I said, slip that over the back side. What you're going to have, it's going to sit in here like this. And when you press, it's going to push that caliper, this piston, back inside. But you want to find the piece that fits just around the surface of the outside of this piston. So when you look in your kit, you got these different pieces. That one looks about like the same size. And that is about perfect right here. And according to this kit, this is C. This will go on right here. Alright y'all, so I kind of cheated here with this tool. I'll show y'all what I did. I actually took this old pad, since we're not using it, and you see I've left that little divot in there. I actually took the old pad and I popped it in like this. I just popped it back in and used the tool this way, and I pressed it back in. But you will have to use, this is a 3/8, and on this F-150, that's the size of your bleeder valve right here. So you just want to crack that a little bit, turn it counterclockwise, open it up, and that'll just allow the fluid to bleed out of the caliper. And so once it's all the way back flat, you can see like this. So once it's all the way in, you're going to take your new pads right here. And your new pads are going to go in this way. So you take that same piece and it just pops in like this. So that one pops in like that. Then you've got this one that comes around and goes like this. Remember these pieces, like I was showing y'all earlier, they fit in over. So you put that one on, and you've got this one. Like I said, you may have to take a screwdriver to pop those in. Or no, it looks like it's going by hand. Kind of working it in side by side. There we go. Alright, so both of your pads are in place. Now with both your pads in place, you can go ahead and line everything back up. So like I said, pads in place. Just take your bungee cord out of the way here that we used to hold it up. And we should be able to, remember those pieces I was telling you about, that little hardware. So you had one that was up here. So make sure that goes back in place. May have to do it like that. Set it in there. But this piece is going to drop on here. That's going to go over like that. Y'all still see what I'm doing? Yeah. And then this piece under here, you got to get back here and line everything up. Alright, and that's it. And so the caliper's on. You can see you got your caliper. You see I put everything on there. You got your new rotor there in the center, pads. Just make sure everything's lined up. Like I said, when you come around to the back side, make sure that you actually, you know, these pins, you can see they kind of move a little bit in and out here. And so they'll be out in the way, so you have to push them back in before you go trying to bang it on there and rip the boots and stuff. But get all that lined up. On some other pads and stuff, without all these clips on the back side, you can run into like where they make noise. So I normally put caliper grease on them. For this one, the only thing I'm going to do, the inside of those appeared to be pretty clear, but like I said, these slide bolts here that you put in, you want to make sure they're nice and greased up. So they're clean, they aren't dirty, as y'all can tell. So I don't need to worry about really cleaning these off all too much. But since, like I said, they are slide bolts, you do want to take some of this brake caliper grease, but you just want to get you some grease on here like that. So then with these slide bolts, like I said, they go back in this boot here. And I did bust out my ratchet and a 10mm socket. We'll go ahead and put your bolts back in, tighten them up. And I just wipe off any excess grease that's left on the outside that could accumulate dust or anything. And now once it's on, you can see here, you can see how it moves in and out. So that's why greasing these push pins up inside those boots helps, and it helps to keep your brakes from sticking. Because as you press the caliper, this is going to tighten up ultimately, and it's going to clear up that gap right here. But when you let off the brakes, you know, you have your piston moves back, but also you have this fluctuation here. And now this may be a little extra. You don't have to necessarily do this, but where you see these slide back and forth here, I like to put just a little bit of grease right there just to help them slide freely. But I'll put a little grease up here. Now you can see when this moves, you got a little bit of grease on here to help everything slide. Alright, so we're pretty much done with this side. So the only thing you have to do, we'll pull that lug nut off. You just put your tire and wheel back on and go ahead and snug everything up. And we'll start on the other side. I'm not going to film the other side because it's going to be the exact same thing, but I'll pick up with y'all when we move up to the front. Now I did want to mention this, the torque setting for your lug nuts is 150 foot-pounds. Alright, so I don't know if I mentioned this on the other side, but y'all see right here, put your jack stand up under that axle there. The last thing you want is for this truck to fall on you when you got your leg under it. Alright y'all, so we're up here on the driver's side front of the pickup truck. And you can see the front calipers are different than the rear. So they're bigger for one, because 70% of your stopping power is on the front, about 30% is on the back. See, you have your caliper here, it's a dual piston caliper, and then you have your bracket. I went ahead and hit all this with some penetrating oil really good. Your top bolts and your bottom bolt down here. Top bolt here, that's a 1/2 inch, and it's a 1/2 inch right down here. So I've got my breaker bar out here, just made it a little easier. I went ahead and put it on, broke these loose. Your back side right here is screwed up. It's an 18mm. Y'all can see it right here. You've got a top bolt right there, and then one down here on the bottom. So that will get your bracket off. But first thing we're going to do is, with our 1/2 inch, we're going to go ahead and get our caliper out of the way. And what I do, like I said, penetrating oil, this bolt, and I spray down here both sides of the rotor down into the pads just to loosen all this up. When I get this bolts out, you can bang this around with a hammer and kind of get it to come loose. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so you're going to get your bolts out of here. So this is what your bolts are small, but like I said, they go into the slide pins, and like I was calling on the rear, they weren't really slide pins. They were bolts. But it doesn't hurt to have them greased up. So you can see 2 bolts out of the way, 1/2 inch. And now you got your caliper. So I'm gonna go ahead, kind of tap this around. You can see it moving. You can see our brake pads. And then take a screwdriver. I want to be able to move that right out of the way. Alright, so your caliper's out of the way. I'm going to set this right here for the time being. There we go. Alright, so caliper's hanging. Don't let it hang on the brake line. Again, it's just stuff you can find at any part store here. This brake clean. You just spray it real good, especially right here on the inside and the outside. Now we want to wipe it off with the boots, but the reason I'm spraying right there is because, like I said, with this piston, if you can get around the edge of it, just around the, right here around the lip, try to get some of that dirt off, so whenever we have to push this piston back into the caliper, you aren't getting any contaminants in there. The reason I sprayed in there, y'all can see here, I'm going to take this wire brush, just go back and forth. Get this good and clean. Alright, now with your caliper kind of cleaned up and out of the way, you can see you got your old pads here. Just go ahead and pry them out with a screwdriver. They just catch in these lips right here. So pads on this truck weren't, I mean, they were worn, but you can see they weren't too bad. They had that little wear line right there. They had some life left in them. Not a whole lot, but they had some life left in them. So now's the fun part. So like I said, this is a 18 millimeter, and this is going to be the hardest part. You're going to need a breaker bar for sure. It was harder on the other side because when I was hammering it, I had to hammer it up in an angle. This is going to be easier on your driver's side because counterclockwise is going to be down. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Grab you a big hammer, hold that on there nice and tight, and start whacking it. Alright, top one's loose. You start on your bottom one now. Alright. Alright, and just to show you what I'm talking about here, back of your caliper, bolt right there, and the bolt down here at the bottom, you can see where my ratchet's on. So those are your two caliper brackets, bolts. We just take these off and pull the bracket off. And these bolts here are a little bigger. Much bigger actually. So here you go. Here's your caliper bracket bolt, lower one. We get your upper one here for you. Alright, so your upper bolt, so with those out of the way, your bracket just comes off. As y'all can see here, you want to get this good and cleaned up. We're going to take this over here to a little spot and I'll get the camera set up so y'all can see what I'm doing. Alright, so this is going to be how to clean up your brackets. So your bracket, and you can see they'll actually tell you on these trucks there's an L. That L right here means this is your left. So if you're standing behind the truck, your driver's side, that's the left. If you're sitting in the vehicle, this is the left bracket, and you can see it's indicated by an L right here. Now what you want to do, we're going to go ahead, spray it down, especially these points right here. And I'll show y'all why. So right in here, take a wire brush and get this good and clean. This is where your new pads are going to ride and slide. Take your rag, wipe that off. Alright, so now this bracket, you can see you got it nice and clean. Both of these, both parts down here where this hardware is, where your brake pads are going to ride. Now the next thing you want to do is go ahead and pull your slide pins out. Now these actually are actual slide pins. So I'm going to show you all here. So you can pull this pin out. You can pull this boot off and spray inside and try to get the inside clean of the dried grease. I find this works just fine. Spray these off. So once you've got this sprayed off, you can go ahead with the rag and get that nice and clean. Next, with your brake and caliper grease, what you want to do is take some of that grease on here, grease this slide bolt up real good. Once you've got it greased up good, you just insert it back in. Make sure that rubber seats good. The rubber boot right here will seat around that lip on this bolt. Give it a nice push, and it's a good time when you take these off to go ahead and inspect them also. Just like I'm doing here, I'm inspecting, making sure the boot's not torn, because that's going to let water and dirt in and it'll cause your brakes to hang up. Your slide pins aren't working. So next we'll go down here to our other one. You can see those just pull off like that. Spray them. Give it a good wipe with old rag, old t-shirt, sock, pair of drawers, whatever you got. Go ahead and give it a nice coat. Just insert it just like that. If y'all can see, make sure it pops in around that boot. I give it a couple turns while it's in there, squeeze the boot, make sure there's no tears or anything. And this bracket is good to go. Now we're ready to put this back on the truck. Before we do that, before we put this on, y'all know I'm replacing the rotors, and you actually have to take this bracket off the front to take the rotor off. Alright, so I went ahead, pulled the old rotor off. Like I said, these will be for sale. Y'all can see they're still in good shape. So this one right here, go ahead and pop it on. Now the only one I had a hard time with was the passenger rear. I did have to kind of hammer around on that rotor all around it to get it to loosen up. But this one was not bad. So I put two of these on just to hold this rotor in place, because it's going to allow us to, it's the only way you're going to be able to get your bracket on, get your pads in place with the caliper back in, and have everything not be all jacked up. Alright, y'all forgive me for this. My, of course my camera's going to die on me. What I was showing y'all was the tool. And you can see here it's the RH is right hand thread, so that means when you're tightening this up, you're actually turning it this way when it goes in. So it's kind of different. You can see you run it down, but when you're actually trying to put pressure and tighten, it's backing it out. So I've already got both of these pistons pushed in, as y'all can see. Like I said, this is a dual piston. So you pop one piece in here, and you use this piece. So like I said, E, pop it on, and it fits right around that ring. And so what you do is you put that on there. So you just want to kind of tighten this up and bring it up to where it's snug like that. Of course, you're going to have this flip around the other way. But once you do that and you get that nice and snug, and you get it lined up on perfectly in the center here, just like that. So you're going to take a 22mm wrench. You're going to turn this clockwise. That's going to make it a lot easier than trying to turn that knob. And with your bleeder valve open, you're going to be pushing the fluid out here, so it's going to take a lot of pressure off. It's going to make it a lot easier. So once you pop this on, take these bolts. Alright, so once those are in and started, you go ahead and tighten these up. I'm going to run these up. I don't know the exact torque setting on these, but I'm going to get them good and snug and get a little more leverage since I'm lifting instead of pushing down. Kind of pull up. I feel that's pretty snug. It's a bracket. You definitely don't want this coming off. Alright, so with your new pads here, I'm going to show y'all what you want to do. And if you remember right down here in these grooves, where y'all can see it, right down here where it's nice and shiny, where we cleaned up, here and then under here, same thing on the back sides. What y'all want to do, go ahead, it's easier first, this caliper grease. We're going to put some, dab some here. We're going to dab some in here. Once you have that done, calipers, your pads can only go in one way. So line that one up, line this one up, just press them in like that. Same thing on the back side. Bottom, top one, and what that grease does is just going to help them slide, move in and out. Next step, once that's done, you go ahead, grab our caliper, go ahead and bring it into place. You're going to have to push these push pins in because they're under tension. So push them in so that you can get them past here on the back end. And once you do that, take your little 1/2-inch bolts. You're going to line those up, top and bottom. Go ahead and take your bungee cord down. Now that you have everything on, tighten these up, snug these bolts up to 1/2 inch. You see, moving out some, in and out is what you want. Make sure everything's in there in place good. And you can see here, down here at the bottom, where the reason you can see how that slides in and out. And so what that allows it to do is when you brake and you let off the brake, everything fluctuates, but it helps everything slide smooth because you've got grease in here, you've got grease here, so everything slides real nice. Now all you got to do, pull your lug nuts here off your rotor, go ahead and put your tire back on. Now once this is all done, y'all, you will have to bleed your brakes. Now there's a machine, I don't have one. The easiest way to do it, traditional way, is 2 people. One person sits in the driver's seat, pump the brakes up, hold it when it's tight. You have another person down here, and you just do each one of these calipers. What you want to do really is start, so wherever your master cylinder is here, so the farthest away from that really is going to be your passenger rear. So start on that side, crack this open, and it's just going to force any air that may have gotten into your system out. So you just open this valve, have someone, like I said, hold the brakes tight. When you open that valve, they're going to push it all the way to the floor. Once it's at the floor, tell them hold it, and then you're going to tighten that up and then let off and pump it up again. Just repeat that process. And that's pretty much it, y'all. We're done. I'm going to put this back on. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Thank y'all for watching. Please hit that like button, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. I hope y'all liked the video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Kevin Reese.